So, is this the rare blooming event that I'm talking about in the title to this video? Well, actually no. This is Dendrobium thurciflorum. This is a first bloomer for me, so it is a rare event for me. I've had it several years. I've got another one, a Dendrobium densiflorum, which is very similar, and that bloomed for me for the first time last year. This is not the one I'm talking about, but it's certainly worth showing off, isn't it? Just look at that. And it does actually have a scent as well. We're actually talking about Streptocarpus dunnii today, which is in full bloom. So let's have a look at it close up. Let's get started. And we are in. So if you've been following me for a number of years, you'll know I'm into my Streptocarpus, and I've got loads of them. This is just a small selection that you can see here, and they're just about to bloom. Lots of them are just coming into spike now, and they will be in bloom right the way through till December, when I purposely stop them. But we're not getting into that. What we're actually looking at, and the reason I'm pointing to these actually is so that you can see the difference between that thing over there. So this over here is a species, and this is Streptocarpus dunnii. And if you think that this video is only going to be about looking at this particular plant, well, just before you kind of click off, there are some really fascinating facts to tell you about this thing. If you've been growing Streptocarpus yourself, then this might be something that you want to give a little try to. So you can see the difference straight away between this absolutely huge leaf here. It's a unifoliate. It only grows one single leaf, and it's very tactile actually. It is really thick, very ridged, much thicker than the usual Streptocarpus leaves. And just show you the other kind of Streptocarpus leaves by comparison. These do have a stem to them at the bottom. This one doesn't, and this is the very first time it has bloomed for me. I'll just lift it up so you can see it in its entirety. No stem, straight from the base we have the leaf, the one single leaf. Really unusual thing, and then these stems giving these kind of bunches of inflorescences, and the very typical Streptocarpus type blooms. So I'll just plonk that down while we have a little chat about what's going on here. So what's so fascinating about this, apart from the fact that it is this huge leaf, which I can't quite get over? It's brilliant, absolutely love it. It is clearly a Streptocarpus. It only comes from one area. It's endemic to a particular area of South Africa called Swaziland, or a particular area in Swaziland, I should say. And another fascinating point about this and these blooms is that from Streptocarpus, this is the only red species that you get with Streptocarpus. You don't get that normally with species Streptocarpus. You get mauves and pinks and blues. So if you ever see any hybrid with some red in it, then it's likely to be from this, or partially from this particular plant. So what else is fascinating about it? Well, it is monocarpic. So that means that once it sets seed, it dies. So I've had this, let's just have a little look, 2020, and we're now 2023. So I've had it just short of 3 years. Obviously this is the first time it's bloomed, because if it dies, then you wouldn't be seeing it, would you? The conditions I have to say, there's nothing particular I've done differently for this than I have for all my other Streptocarpus. The conditions I have must just be happily what they're like. I did read, and it was on, I think it was on a website from South Africa, that no point trying to grow these at home because they are, quote, practically impossible, or it is practically impossible to replicate the conditions that it needs. Well, it seems that it isn't, because I've done it, haven't I? So once it sets seed, and it is actually pollinated, unusually for Streptocarpus, by birds, I believe. So if I'm going to pollinate this, I'm going to have to try and replicate what a bird does. So I'll probably just get a little paintbrush and just kind of dab from one to the other, because I want to do that. The only way of propagating this thing is through seed. Unlike other Streptocarpus, which are very, very easy to propagate through leaves, you cannot do that with one of these unifoliate leaves, or so I read. Another interesting point, when it comes around to winter, now bear in mind this is from a subtropical region, this thing starts to dye back the leaf. The whole thing starts to, I mean, you can almost see like a line across, and then the whole thing below that line dies off. Now, this is rather worrying if you've never seen that before, and what I always do is cut that off, thinking if I cut it off, it'll kind of stop the rot. But in actual fact, that is a perfectly natural thing for it to do. It's called an abscission, and it does that because when resources are getting low, as in maybe it's getting a bit cooler, maybe it's getting a bit drier, and obviously you leave these things drier over the winter months. I'd allow it down to 12 degrees Celsius in here. It is from a subtropical region, so I really wouldn't let them go much lower than that. The plant itself thinks, well, I need to stop the water loss, I need to preserve resources, so it cuts off and reduces the size of that huge leaf. Perfectly natural, and the leaf continues to grow through the spring, and the whole thing just keeps on moving down. I believe they can get much larger than the one I've got here, but I'm still quite happy with that. And the photographs I've seen, this one is still a fairly large thing. So let's just zoom in on these blooms. These are really beautiful blooms. I'm very happy with those, and there's plenty more to come there, and another little bunch down there which no doubt will take the place. When it does set seed, it sets loads and loads of seeds. As you can imagine, if the thing dies, then it's going to have to replicate itself quite a lot. So I believe there are lots and lots of tiny seeds like dust, and they are spread by the wind. So it should be fairly easy for me to collect some of those seeds. The seed heads, like all Streptocarpus, kind of long and thin and a bit twisty, and they pop open. So I should be able to collect those and sow them, and hopefully have some more of this beautiful and very unusual plant, which I think is a talking point. So there we have it, Streptocarpus dunnii. What do you think? Is it worth growing? Do you think you'd bother doing something like this, keeping it for a couple of years, then maybe collecting the seed? Obviously this thing is going to die. Do you think it's worth it? I do. Tell me in the comments. And if this has tickled your interest in Streptocarpus, I will point you to a video up in the corner over there, which will be the latest one that I did. I think it was round about December time after I've been in hospital, so excuse me, I'm looking pretty thin at that particular time. If you're interested in the playlist, you can easily look that up. And for now, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.